Hello, my most amazing artist, and welcome to your brand new art project. This project is called Paper Birdhouses, and the first thing that we have to do is create our textured paper, okay? So that's the element of art we are working with is texture. Remember, texture is the way that something feels or the way something looks like it feels. So if I feel this sweater, it feels nice, soft, and cozy. But if I feel, let's look at this. Little picture of this dog. He looks like he's fluffy, doesn't he? But when I feel him, oh, he just feels like cardboard. So that is texture, and this is texture. So you might be wondering what this big old thing is behind me. Well, this is my cart, and this is what I use to teach to my face-to-face classes. I thought it would be nice to go ahead and have the materials up here that you're going to need during the first part of this video so that you can go ahead and gather those materials, okay? So the first one is brown paint. So I am going to be using paint, but if you do not have paint, of course, you're welcome to use crayons, colored pencils, or markers. I'm also going to need some paper, just one piece of paper, because this is a brand new project, so we are starting afresh. So you're going to need a fresh piece of paper. I also have texture tools on here. So what I mean by that is I have these that are already made, and they just have a design on the bottom of them, so I can like scrape my paint using these. But of course, if you don't have these, there are a ton of different things that you can make texture with. One thing is a dirty toothbrush. All right, you can use that to make texture. A plastic fork would work. You could even use Q-tips, maybe cotton balls as well. I also made my own texture tools, kind of mimicking these out of just a dog treat box. And I just cut a design on one edge. So here's like a zigzag design. I also did a wavy design, so you can make your own texture tools too. And another option is to use a sponge, and this creates a really cool texture. Any sponge will work, so just look around your house to see what you can use to make texture with. Now, if you are using crayons or markers, these kinds of texture tools won't work. You're going to have to actually draw your texture onto your paper. How many times did I just say texture? All right, so that's everything that you're going to need today. But before we get started, let's go ahead and say our class mantra all together on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. My mantra: I am positive, I am creative, I am mindful, I am amazing, I am an artist. All right, guys, I think you're ready. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, whenever we were going over our materials, I think I forgot to tell you you will also need a paintbrush. Okay, this is just a normal paintbrush, and this is the kind of paint I'm using, heavy-bodied tempera paint. And mine is in the color terracotta, so it's kind of a reddy kind of brown, but you can use any paint that you have, any color brown that you have. And according to the title of our project, we are going to be making these into birdhouses. So yes, you will need to use brown. We're going to introduce more color to this project later, but for today, if you don't have brown paint, you can use brown, different colors of brown crayon, different colors of brown marker, or different colors of brown colored pencil. Maybe you want to do a mixture of all those materials. Get creative with what you have, guys. Okay? Since this is the beginning part of our project, this is a brand new piece of paper, so I need to write my name, Miss M. And bonus points if you're in my face-to-face classes and you put your class code. All right, after you write your name and your class code, you're just gonna flip your paper over. Notice I do have a food tray here, and that's just gonna make it a lot easier to keep my painting in one spot and keep the mess off my table. Not only do I have this food tray to keep my painting on, but I also have the messy mat, so I have extra protection to not get paint all over my table. So the first step's pretty simple. You're just gonna take your brown paint on your paintbrush and start painting on your paper. All right, we're gonna wanna do this pretty fast because we don't want this paint to dry up, because what we're going to do is we are going to use our different texture tools that I went over at the beginning of this video. Whatever you have will work. I'm gonna try this homemade one that I did, and you're just gonna start drawing into it. Ooh, and you can see it already creates a really cool effect in our painting, okay? So today is all about experimenting and seeing what you can do with your paint, what kinds of textures you can make. Whenever I do this, I like to go ahead and cover my whole paper. So it does get a little messy. If you get paint on your hands, that's okay. Miss M pretty much always has paint on her hands no matter what day of the week it is. So don't worry too much, because I am holding my paper down with one hand and painting on the other. And I can already see some spots drying. Adding texture will not work if your paint is dry. See, this part of my painting is already dry. That was fast. I'm trying to draw texture in it and it's not working. But in this wet paint over here, ooh, I've actually never added texture with a toothbrush before, but it makes it look kind of soft and fuzzy. I like it. Okay, so you cannot add texture unless your paint is wet. You can do different lines. You can do any texture that you want to. Okay, and I actually need more paint, so if you run out of paint during this, just let me know and I can bring you some more. All right, let me finish covering my paper. My whole paper is covered and this is still really wet, so I'm gonna see what else I can do. All right, I'll hold it on a dry spot maybe. That kind of gives it the same texture that the toothbrush gave it. Ooh, I love the fork. The fork makes it really cool. You could do like wavy lines, zigzag. Okay, the only thing with this is that we don't want to go over the same spot too much. Okay, if you do that or you press down too hard, your paper might rip, and we definitely do not want that. Okay, so don't go over this paper too much because it'll start to get really fragile and it might rip and get all messed up. Okay, so don't do this too many times, but if you don't like an area, you can just add more paint over top of it and use one of your tools to draw a new texture. Ooh, I absolutely love that one. Very cool. All right, so I'm going to continue using and experimenting with my different texture tools, maybe layering them. You see how cool that looks with that blocky one, and then I went over it with my fork. Looks really cool. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and experiment until I'm happy, making sure I don't go over this paper too many times with too much paint and too many textures. Okay, because I really don't want my paper to rip. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Since we use these texture tools, once our paper dries 100%, we can actually run our finger across it and we can see what kind of textures we made. So I am just gonna make a prediction, and I think that right here, it's gonna be pretty bumpy because I can see where the paint is kind of risen up. Oop. You see, you're gonna get messy. That's okay. All right, and I think once this dries, when I feel it, I think it's gonna be kind of bumpy. I think over here, it might be a little bit rough. All right, I think you can tell which tools were my favorite. I absolutely loved working with this. Ooh, more paint. I absolutely loved working with this fork. I think it made a really fun texture. And what's kind of hard about doing this is I don't know when to stop, because I just want to keep going because it's so much fun. But you're gonna have to find a stopping point because we don't want to do this too much, or else what will happen? Our paper will rip. Okay, so after you add your texture, with your different texture tools and paint, or if you were drawing with other materials, you can do some soft textures by pressing it really lightly on your paper. If you press really hard, it might look kind of rough and bumpy. Just experiment with whatever materials you have, but after you are done covering your whole entire paper, you notice there's no white spots on here. This whole paper is covered with brown paint and beautiful textures. You will be done. This is all we're doing this week. Next week, we are going to start something new, which I'm really excited about, and I hope you guys are too. But for now, this is where we're going to stop. All right, I hope you guys have a lot of fun experimenting with all the different textures that you can make. I know it's going to be amazing because you guys are amazing. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.